Welcome to my Stephen King book collection. I like horror. That should be kind of obvious, I guess, since I make DDLC mods, which is technically horror. But I do. I like reading. I have all of his books. There's 81 books on this huge bookshelf right next to me that you can't see. I'm not talking about this bookshelf. This is a whole other bookshelf. This is a whole bunch of other books. We're not here for that. We're here for Stephen King specifically, and we got a lot of them. I've read most of them. There's 81 books on this shelf. There's only 17 that I haven't read, so I actually feel like I can give a fairly good commentary on each book. Or maybe not every, but a good amount. They're all arranged in alphabetical order, so we'll be going from A, ending at Z. Actually, ending at numbers. I put numbers after all the alphabet is through. If there's any books that start with a number, I put those at the end. So from A to 1. Anyhow, that should be all. I mean, I do need to point out that some of this alphabetical might seem a little bit odd because there are series, books with sequels, and I put all those together instead of randomly, because even though it might start with an F or a G, they might be in a section that doesn't make sense. It's only because it's in a series, and I'll explain that as we get there. Anyhow, I think that's everything. Without further ado, let's get to the books. I don't know if I've already said this, because I've done so many takes of this because I keep screwing up. This would be a really ridiculously long video if I did all 81 books right now. So we're just going to go through each shelf in 3 parts, because there's 3 shelves right next to me, and we're going to go through them like that. And the first one is with A. It's the only A, but it's one not written by Stephen King, but it's about Stephen King, so it kind of belongs on there. There's another book on this shelf that isn't by him, but kind of belongs, but we'll get to that in the next part. Anyhow, this is American Master. Stephen King American Master. I put it in A because American Master. All the other ones have Stephen King on it, so I didn't feel like putting it in S. Anyhow, haven't read it. This is a fact book. It's like a bunch of random facts about his books and things like that. If I read it, I probably would have maybe a little bit more to tell you about some of the books, but I just didn't want spoilers to the books I haven't read yet. So, I don't know. Eventually, I'll probably have to do a remake of this video so I can tell you all the interesting stuff that might be in the books that I haven't read yet. Until then, if you're interested in factual, I don't know, not factual, and fun facts about Stephen King, the king of horror, see if you can buy it. Now moving on to his actual written books, we have Bees in the Bachman books. Now this is a collection of 4 novels, written by Stephen King, but under his pseudonym of Bachman. Stephen King had a lot of ideas, but his publishers would say that he should only release 1 or 2 books a year, but he wanted to release more, so he made a pseudonym, fake author, to write more books. And this is a small collection of some of them. The reason that this is kind of important to get is because the book on here that we're going to be talking about is Rage. It's the first book in this copy. And most copies you get, it's not in print. It's not in there because the book itself, Rage, is about a school shooting, and that's highly controversial. And it got pulled. It's no longer in print. You can't find any new copies of the book Rage. I have read Rage. I've read all of these. I have different copies of the other 3 books, and we'll get to those later. But Rage, is it good? It's weird. Stephen King's known for weird, and he's known for bittersweet endings. You can't really expect an overly good or an overly bad ending. It's usually bittersweet, like Sayori's poems. But I can see why it was pulled. It's about a school shooting. It tries to kind of make relatability with its main character, who is a school shooter. So, it had to be pulled. Is it a good read? If you can get it, yeah, sure, read it. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it should have been pulled. I feel like it was just kind of unexpected to the ending. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything because the ending's so weird. It took me a while to understand it, but it's all right. It's not it's all right. Anyhow, moving on. Bag of Bones. This is a big book. It's a big novel about ghosts, hauntings of sorts. It's a big ghost story. That's basically what it is, but there's a whole lot more to it. It has a really good villain, in my opinion. I don't know, it really made me hate the villain. Like, it did really good on that. Main character, I've seen the movie with it. They made this into a movie, a really long movie. And it was alright. I think, one thing I say is that, you know, the main character in this book's a writer. Stephen King almost likes to write himself into his books by making the main character a writer. And I think this movie understood that because the person they had cast to be the main character kind of looks like Stephen King when he's writing. So I think that's pretty cool. Is it a good book? Yeah, it's alright. It's a big book. If you got free time on your hands, then sure, check it out. It takes place at one part in Derry, which if you know anything about horror, that is the location of It, the famous Stephen King book that just about everyone knows at this point. This has a part of that in it. Or no, it's in Castle Rock, isn't it? Where is it? I can't remember. This is, wait. Is it in Derry? I want to say on the back. I don't know. It's in a place. It happens. It's a thing. It's been a while since I've read it. Is it good? I remember enjoying it. I also remember the ending being very dark and very almost disturbing. In my opinion, it was pretty sad. If you want to read, don't watch the movie. Don't be like, oh, I'll just watch the movie and forget the book. Just read the book. Is better. Much better. So, just read it if you want. Anyhow, next up, Bizarre Bad Dreams. What is this? It's a short story collection. It has a whole bunch of different stories in it, written by Stephen King. It's a collection. Let's see, Melody one's really good. That's the first one. Batman and Robin have an altercation. That... I didn't expect that one. I kind of... It's... The thing about most of these short stories is that they start off with a unique or different premise, and then they kind of twist it on you. Kind of like twist ending. Most of these are pretty good. Two of these are actually in another book that we'll get into later, but anyhow, it's a fair read. If you like short stories, I definitely recommend it, but it's none of the short stories have ever been adapted into a film that I know of, so I don't know. Next up is Blaze. It's another Richard Bachman book. I think it's the last one that he ever did as Bachman. It's a good one. Most of the ones that are by Bachman are really good. I think, you know, like Rage was very controversial, but all the other ones I've read, I had a really fun time with. They're usually pretty short, pretty fun. They're good stories. This one's good as well. If you like lovable idiots, this one has that for you. It's a pretty good story. It has a good main character, and it kind of pulls on your heartstrings a little bit towards the end, which is fine with me. But you know, it's a good book. I'm going to be saying that a lot because I like Stephen King. I don't have much bad to say about some of his books, so I might just be, hey, it's a really good book. Blockade Billy. What in the world is this book? It's a short story from Bizarre Bad Dreams. Two of those short stories are in this, and they made it into a book. I don't know why. I didn't know that. I found out, I was like, oh, Blockade Billy? Hey, I should get it. Didn't have to, but I did. It's a little hardcover. Is it good? No. I'm just flat out no. It's about baseball. I don't care about sports all that much. So, I mean, the best part's the ending. It's a twist ending, it's shocking, it's interesting, but everything before that ending, I was so bored with. The second short, the Blockade Billy, that's a short story. There's another one in here called Morality. That one was much more interesting. But if you're interested in either of these, just get Bizarre Bad Dreams. You can get this and so many more short stories for a cheaper price. And how next up? C's, Carrie. I think everyone knows Carrie. If you don't, telekinesis, girl has it. And her mother's overly religious, badly overly religious, and she is hated by just about everyone in her school, and it's a wonderful mix of chaos. It's a good book? Yeah, it was one of the first ones I read. It was the first book that Stephen King ever published. It's a good one. It's a classic. It's been made in movies multiple times. I've seen the classic Carrie that everyone knows. The movie was pretty good. The book's better up until the end. The movie gets the ending so much better in my opinion. Mostly because, you know, the ending, there's this kind of chaotic scene, and it's kind of what everything's been building up to, all the suspense. You know something crazy is going to happen, and it happens, but it's not told through like the perspective of like Carrie or some of the victims. It's told through reports, some news reports, people making like testifying to like what happened, and it's all like almost flashback events of what happened. And I didn't like that. I thought that kind of botched the ending. I was like, why? Why can't I experience it firsthand? Why do I have to listen to it like it's some like past event? I should be reading this and it should be happening right now. I don't care for that. Anyhow, next up, Cell. This book got made into a movie with Samuel L. Jackson, I believe. I haven't seen the movie though. I did read the book. Is it good? Yeah, it's alright. Best part's mostly the middle. The journey part, from the beginning to the ending, is just weird. People will say like Stephen King doesn't know how to write a good ending, and I don't believe that. A good portion of his endings are really good, but sometimes they're just a bit weird. Sometimes it's just a bit weird. I still don't fully understand what in the world happened in the end. It kind of lost me. But the idea of phones puts here, and then you turn into a animal, basically. I mean, you're still human, but you just act very vicious and violent and angry. I'd say zombies, but that would imply that they're dead, but they're not. Is it good? It's alright. If you like Stephen King, you'll probably enjoy it, but I mean, if you're just starting out, I wouldn't start with that one. Next up, Christine. This is probably my favorite Stephen King book. I really liked it. I don't know, killer car. Something about a killer car is interesting. It's killer car. I don't think I need to say any more. It's awesome. There is a point where perspective changes from like I think third person to first person, and some people don't like that. I didn't notice it that much, and I think it kind of fits because there's kind of a shift in with what happens in the plot, and I think it kind of works. Anyhow, I really liked it. I did see the movie by John Carpenter. Book's better, but movie's still pretty good. If you like horror, you could do a lot worse than Christine. Christine's pretty great. I found it to be highly enjoyable. So, read it. Next up, Colorado Kid. This is an illustrated version, but I've read this book, but not this copy, so I don't know what the illustrations are. Anyhow, is it good? It's short. It's a hard case. It's a murder mystery. But here's the thing. Spoiler alert, there's no answer. There's no answer. They never tell you who did it. It just kind of ends on, well, we don't know. Bye. And that's it. Well, that's all to say. I didn't like that. Stephen King, even in the end, he has like this little epilogue where he's actually talking to the reader, being like, he's like, I know there's no like, solution, but like, it's still good for a reason this, that. And I was like, no, you didn't even give an answer. It's an unfinished book. It needs to be finished. There needs to be an answer. But if you want just a mystery that's unsolved, then yeah, sure, go for it. It's not bad. It's a fair mystery. Next up, Creepshow. George Romero and Stephen King made this anthology film. It was kind of goofy, kind of spooky, and it got really successful. And they made it into a book, a graphic novel. It's a little comic book, basically. It's short, it's fun. If you like the movie, you'll of course love this. It's the same thing, just in comic book form, because in the movie there is a comic book shown that's supposed to be the story shown in the film, and they just kind of made it into a real thing. Is it fun? Yes, it's a very fun stories. They're fun stories. They're very reminiscent of the comics from like the beginning of like DC and Marvel. They kind of like that look, kind of like that bit of olden drawings. They don't look like new ones that look more almost computer generated. But I bet you these were. I don't know. Either way, it's almost like a time capsule. They take you back to a different time, and it's really nice. If you like graphic novels, I think you'd enjoy it. Anyhow, Cujo. I've read this one. Apparently, Stephen King was so high on drugs that he doesn't remember writing this. He doesn't remember. I mean, he knows he made it. He knows he came with the idea. He just doesn't actually remember putting it down in writing. He doesn't remember that part. He doesn't remember the actual writing process, which is crazy. Is it good, though? Is, like, Drugged Up King really good? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's Killer Dog. It's just a dog. It's a Saint Bernard, but on the cover, that is not a Saint. I don't know what that is. It's not Saint Bernard though, so I don't know who made this cover, but they messed up somewhere. But it's pretty good. There's no chapters, so be wary of that. If you're gonna, if you don't have the time to read it all in one sitting, just be ready to put your bookmark in a place that, it's not finished. Anyway, it's good. I've seen the movie. Movie's pretty good. Book's better because the ending, I don't know, to me has more meaning in the book than in the movie. Next up, Cycle of the Werewolf. This is a short read. It took me I read it in one day, but it's good. It's almost like a campfire story. It's quick, it's fun. If you like just classic horror, this is pretty good. It has some wonderful illustrations in it that are a bit graphic that, I don't know, make it more terrifying. But this book's been adapted into a film called Silver Bullet. I don't know why they didn't call it Cycle of the Werewolf. They called it Silver Bullet. I've seen the movie. It's pretty good. Both of them have basically the same things though. So I mean, it's not. This book is, if you watched the movie, you've read the book without knowing. There isn't much more to add from the book. And next up, Bees. Dance Macho Bee. I hope I pronounced that right. I don't know. Maybe it's Dance Macabre. I don't know. I'm not good with word pronunciations. I can't speak. Anyhow, haven't read this. This is basically Stephen King talking about other horror fiction, what he thinks about it, almost like he's reviewing and just talking about horror in general. So I haven't read it. I know that other classics are probably in this and he talks about them, but I haven't read it, so I don't know anything else about it. Next up, The Dark Half. Really good book. I have read it. It starts off a bit slow for me because maybe I'm just unable to. Maybe I just need something more action-packed, which is sad. It starts with a few chapters, sets up the mood, but then a little bit around 1/4 of the way through, it gets a little bit more. It starts really going crazy, and it doesn't stop till the end. So that's really good. I mean, I started off and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening, but yeah, sure. Then it started picking up, and I couldn't put it down. It's a really good book. It's a really, really good book. This probably was released a little bit after people figured out that Richard Bachman wasn't real, and it was just a pseudonym for Stephen King. If you read the book, sorry, I'm dying. If you read the book, you'll see that this is kind of a unique story based off of the fact that the pseudonym was found. Because that's basically what happens in the very beginning. An author, pseudonym, I think the pseudonym is called George Stark, gets found out. And then, other stuff happens. There's a book. Read it. Seriously, read it. It's really good. It got made into a movie, but I haven't seen the movie. I don't know anything else about it. So, I don't know if the movie's good. Maybe. Anyhow, The Gunslinger. Haven't read this one. It's the first in a series called the Dark Tower series, which is why it's in D. I'm not done with the D's yet. This is the first one, The Gunslinger. I haven't read this. Most lists of best Stephen King horror will say that the Dark Tower is his best work, so I'm kind of saving it for last. So we got a few books where I don't know anything to say about it other than, it's Dark Tower. Because I got The Gunslinger right there, and then the next one is called The Drawing of Three. The Drawing, ooh, pretty clever. I got The Wastelands. I think that goes on a train. I think there's something about a train in that. Wizard in Glass. I think this goes into backstory a bit. Went Through the Keyhole. This is an interlude. Wolves of the Kala. I think I pronounced that right. There's a Harry Potter reference in this somewhere. I'm pretty sure. Haven't read it. Song of Susanna. There's a bird on the cover. Guess what the last one's called. You guessed it. The Dark Tower. Now the interesting thing is I have all these in mass market because all the covers, when lined up, actually make a bigger image. They all kind of connect. And that's pretty cool. It's shown on the back. You can see the image. It's pretty cool. Anyhow. Next up is the Dark Tower Concordance. If you're ever lost in the series and you want an answer for who a character is or a setting or something, it's probably in this big old book. So yeah, technically not written by Stephen King, so I guess it's the third one. I didn't think of that, but it's there for, you know, Dark Tower's sake. Anyhow, next up, The Dead Zone. I've seen the movie, I've read the book. Book is really good. The movie's pretty good. It has Christopher Walken starring in it. This one will pull on your heartstrings. This isn't too much of a horror as much as almost like a drama and a bit of action, like an action thriller or something like that, but this is really good. They provide an interesting scenario with a guy who has a very unique ability, and he actually goes into a coma for like 4 years, wakes up. I mean, imagine that. Wake up's like, whoop, you've lost 4 years of your life. Have fun. It's pretty good. This is a very used copy. I wouldn't... this is just for show on the shelf because most of these need to be mass market so they can all look really nice. But I do have other copies of these books if I don't want to read one that looks, you know, browned by age. Very old, very used. Anyhow, next up is Desperation. Very fun book. I really enjoyed it. It's a big book, but I got through it very quickly because it's just so good. You know, they say you can't put down a book. I don't know if I'd say like I couldn't put it down. I just said I was interested enough to not want to put it down. This is a really good one. This one actually has a unique connection to a Richard Bachman book called The Regulators, but we'll get to that in like part 3. The reason that it's not next to it is because it's not a sequel. This is not like, the only connection is that it's the same characters and setting and villain, but almost completely different stories. They really almost have nothing to do with each other, but they're released around the same day, and one's by Stephen King, one's by Richard Bachman. And if you have the hardcovers, which I do, they're over there, I'm too lazy to get them, they actually, if you put them together, they make a large image. It's cool! So it's worth it if you ever get the chance to buy those. But reading-wise, absolutely wonderful. Very interesting, very intense. I think the villain, the main villain is kind of but the beginning, the starter villain, is so interesting. It grips you, you know, it makes you interested. I pulled the wrong book. I almost just skipped the book. Holy crap, that would have been embarrassing. Anyhow, Different Seasons. This is a novella collection, and this is probably one that would be popular to most people in their interest because 2 of these novellas have been made into very successful movies. There's The Shawshank Redemption, that's in this. And The Body, which got made into Stand By Me, is also in this. There's also Apt Pupil, which was also made into a movie. I've seen all the movies, I've read all the books. For this collection, the movie's really good, books are better, except for Shawshank. Shawshank the movie kind of added more to it. And The Body and Stand By Me are pretty the same. There's differences, but I mean not enough to kind of like say like one's better than the other. Either way, really good collection, but especially if you want something that isn't always, you know, just horror, it's kind of like the humanist that is Stephen King, this would be a good one that you'd want to read. But watch out for the last one. It's called The Breathing Method. It gets just a little bit dark, so, you know, be careful. A little bit gruesome. Anyhow, next up, not gruesome, Dolores Claiborne. This is not a horror. This is like a drama. And it's a really good drama. This is like the 3rd Stephen King book I ever read. I didn't know what to expect, but it is really good. If you want something to pull at your heartstrings, not just to make you feel like, I don't know, emotional, like sadness, but like anger and bittersweet, I don't know. It really just, it drags you through and it's just a very unique story. I really enjoyed it. Had a wonderful time with it. It's a short read. If you get able to get your hands on it, I think just about anyone should be able to like this. It's just such an interesting story. You know, it has some mystic things, a little bit of sci-fi, but most of it is just, it's like realistic fiction. Like you can really see it happening. It's a really good book. I don't know what else to say about it though. It got made into a movie. Stephen King says that the character Dolores Claiborne, he made with Kathy Bates, the actor Kathy Bates, in mind to play it. And she did. She stars in the movie as Dolores Claiborne. So that's pretty cool. Next up, Dreamcatcher. Do they catch dreams? Does this have anything to do with dreams or a dream catcher? No. There is a dream catcher in the book, but in my opinion, it has nothing to do with it. I know it technically does, but this is a book about aliens. And this was written after Stephen King got into an accident with a van. A van hit him. And people say that when you read this, you can actually almost like feel the pain that he's feeling, you know, in his writing. I didn't feel any pain. I just kind of like, it started off really good, and up to the middle, it was really, really good. But then, like, it bloated. It has the longest chase scene ever in cars. They just keep going and going and go until the very, very end do they stop and there's some sort of climax. It takes forever, and it doesn't build suspense. You know, sometimes there's a chase, you know, and it's supposed to build up, you know, tension. It's supposed to build, you know, that kind of like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen, right? That doesn't happen. I just want to get to where you're going. Just right, and then they got there, or something. I don't know. 300 pages could have been chucked out. But speaking about that van accident, I know that Stephen King eventually bought that van that crashed into him and took a bat and other probably weapons to it and just beat the crap out of it. Which sounds like a lot of fun. Anyhow, last of the D's in this book, and the last one on this shelf, so the last one for this episode, is Doom McKee. Haven't read it. I'm pretty sure it's something to do with paintings, and ghosts, but haven't gotten to this one yet. So yeah, that's part one, and I'll see. I should have part two. I should have all these uploaded at the same time. So have fun. See you in the next one.